Traveling from the staging area to the banks of Marsh Creek, you'll be standing on or near the big bridge that leads into the preserve. Today, there's an insistent rock wren sounding off on a boulder not too far away. Rock wrens can get all the water they need from their food, which is helpful in places with hot, dry summers, like Round Valley. But even in the dry season, some pools of water remain in Marsh Creek. Here's Seth Adams.
Marsh Creek is the second longest, least disturbed creek in Contra Costa County. So if you divide it up into sections, there's the steeper headwater section in Mount Diablo and Morgan Territory. And then there's the section where it starts flattening out between there and Round Valley and Marsh Creek State Park, where it's still got a lot of flow and it's still losing elevation fairly quickly, but it's not as steep. And then you hit Marsh Creek Reservoir at Marsh Creek State Park, and beyond that you're going through former farmland and now the increasingly urban areas of Brentwood and Oakley before you hit the Delta at Big Break, where the Delta Science Center is.
Save Mount Diablo has worked to protect the upper and middle sections of Marsh Creek, which may have once supported steelhead, a type of trout that travels from saltwater to freshwater to spawn. There are other groups, including Friends of Marsh Creek Watershed and the East Bay Regional Park District, that are working to restore the lower part of the creek, where people have recently been seeing both adult and juvenile Chinook salmon.
We're here on a July day and the creek appears completely dry. But there are all kinds of trees here, sycamores and cottonwoods and willows, that only live here because their roots are in water. And so when you think about a creek, you have to think about it like an iceberg. 90% of it is below the surface. You may be walking on dry gravel beds, but underneath are big beds of more gravel, sands, etc. And that's where the groundwater table gets recharged. Even though there's no flow showing on the surface, there's still water flowing in Marsh Creek right underneath our feet.
The creek was named after John Marsh, the first American to settle in this valley. In 1837, Marsh paid $500, all the money he had, for 13,000-acre Rancho Los Mecanos. The property, named for its sand dunes, stretched all the way from just north of here to the San Joaquin River. Over the years, Marsh prospered. He raised cattle, he practiced medicine, and he built a dock on the San Joaquin River that came to be called Marsh's Landing, where he sold supplies to people headed to the gold fields. In May of 1862, William Brewer of the California Geological Survey decided to visit. Starting in Clayton, Brewer headed down Marsh Creek to Marsh's ranch, possibly passing near this spot where we're standing today.
We went on to Marsh's, about 14 miles east. The road led down a canyon torn by last winter's floods. The road was considered passable, but one not used to our life would pronounce it utterly impassable for any wagon. Yet we brought our wagon through with only one slight break, making the 14 miles in 4.5 hours. Before the canyon emerges into the San Joaquin Plain, it winds into a flat of perhaps 200 or 300 acres, surrounded by low rolling hills and covered with oaks scattered here and there, like a park. And such oaks! Nearly worthless for timber, but surely the most magnificent trees one could desire to see. I measured the circumference of about 30 near camp that were over 15 feet around. 18, 19, or 20 feet were not uncommon, with wide branching heads over 100 feet across.
Just across the road and north of Round Valley, Marsh's ranch and the beautiful stone house he built for his wife Abigail are now part of Marsh Creek State Park. Marsh Creek State Park was not open to the public when we made this guide in 2012, but someday you'll be able to explore its 4,000 acres to deepen your understanding of Marsh Creek history and ecology.